What comes next? Making decisions that are beneficial and going to decrease your stress, not increase your stress, is so important that this month's theme is decisiveness. I'm Tonyah Dee, registered dietitian, and since we live in a body, have a soul, and are a spirit, I believe it's important to feed and pay attention to all three parts. I'm going to give you some tips on how to increase discernment, the ability to make these decisions that will move you forward and hopefully not create any extra stress in your life. We have so many choices now, and information's coming at us so fast that I have found it's kind of a natural thing to be kind of resistant to making decisions and maybe even getting stuck in sort of a nostalgia, like how things used to be. And I've identified for myself, that's actually just not that helpful. It's okay to do that sometimes, but I've noticed that what I really need is to be able to make decisions just a little bit faster and make decisions that are going to be beneficial for me and beneficial for everyone else. So the word is decisiveness and discernment. It's discerning whether this decision is beneficial or not beneficial. Is it a wise decision or an unwise decision? Let's start with the body. Our body is like a built-in crap detector, which is kind of a wonderful thing, right? Because our body is going to give us a lot of messages in the present moment about making these decisions. Is this decision going to make you tired? Does this decision make you sad? Does this decision or will this decision hurt you physically or somebody else in any way? And so our body's always speaking to us, and ideally our body should always sort of feel good and feel free and feel light. So one of the things I recommend is make sure you have enough self-care routines in place so that your body does feel good most of the time. So when you make a decision and you realize, wow, that just did not feel good with my body at all, then you know what to compare it to. Your body feels good most of the time, and then it'll speak to you like, that's not okay with me. Let's just not make that decision next time. So the body itself is such a good indication and helpful tool for making wise decisions. In our soul, remember, our soul is our mind, our emotions, and our will, our free will. That's a lot of things kind of always talking to us, right? Our mind is always talking to us, always. And our emotions are up and down, they're forward, they're back. So this is a lot of input. Our desires, I want this, I don't want this, kind of always coming up from our soul. So it's really important, as our soul is speaking, to learn to befriend, make friends with our soul, and get to the point where we can really listen to what our soul is telling us for our journey. And then we get to the point where we really can trust ourselves. We can trust our soul to give us that information that we need in order to make a good decision. Now let's talk about the mind. The mind, like I said before, it's always talking, right? It's always either trying to solve a problem, analyze something, judge something. That's what our minds do. And sometimes our minds can be very negative. And the negative mind is not a negative thing. So the negative mind sometimes our mind can see down the road and project like this is just not going to be a good thing for us. And all of a sudden we're more negative, or it might be interpreted as fearful. Like all of a sudden my mind is like really fearful. It's negative about this thing. Well, the negative mind is just something to look at just as much as the positive mind, because sometimes the positive mind doesn't take into consideration the risks that the negative mind does. So you work with both, but I hear a lot, oh, just, ignore your fears and, move forward. And we don't want to ignore our fears. We want to look deeper into them. Like, what truth is our mind revealing for us? Remember, our mind is there to keep us safe and solve our problems. So it's trying to solve a problem when it feels like really, really negative. Like, what problem is it trying to solve? Listen to it and lean in and see if you can find the underlying truth that maybe this decision isn't the best right now, or it needs to be changed to this other decision. So in our emotions, we have so many emotions, and everybody has so many emotions. There's hundreds and hundreds of micro emotions. And right now, it seems as if we're kind of in this epidemic of dysfunctional emotions acting out all over the place. And one of the things that make our lives dysfunctional is when we are unable to embrace our emotions and look at what that emotion is trying to express to us. Because our emotions express to us how we're experiencing life. And same with other people, their emotions are expressing how they are experiencing life. So the idea is to become a little bit more sensitive to our emotions, more sensitive to other people's emotions. Not that you have to take care of somebody else's emotions, but be sensitive to them. Oh, this person is sensitive right now. What can I do to not push more buttons and push them into that dysfunctional place? Or same with you. If we deny, repress our emotions, a lot of times we end up acting them out in some dysfunctional way. So lean in, be sensitive to your emotional states, because they're trying to tell you something, discerning that in your life it's experiencing life this way, and maybe you should make a decision that's not creating that emotion. In the will. So our will is where our desires are. It's where a lot of times it's like our free will. I want this, I don't want that. I wish for this, I don't wish for that. And our soul is very impulsive, by the way, our thoughts and our feelings and our desires. So again, the goal is just to listen. And I have found listening to my will, it can be so rebellious. Like, I want this and I don't want that. And it is not the best decision for me, clearly. So I kind of listen to my will and I say, I hear ya. I wish we could do that. But, really the body speaks a whole different language about that decision. And I just don't think this is the best decision. And we kind of have to manage our soul, even though it's always speaking. It's called self-control, soul control. We listen, it's always speaking, it's telling us important information that really does help us to discern the path of our life, these decisions that are going to move us forward and into areas that aren't going to create stress. So we want to get to the point where you realize I can trust my desires. I can trust the things that I want are going to create goodness in my life and not really create more stress. I'm just going to say stress. So let's talk about the spirit. Our spirit is attached to God's spirit. It's a higher spirit, or whatever you want to call it. We're joined. Our spirit is joined to the greater good, the greater spirit. I call it God's spirit. And this is where our long-term plans are. This is where we'll find the decisions and the voice that really carries us forward into what's best, not only for ourselves, but for other people. So not only do we listen to our body, listen to our soul, but we go deeper and we listen to the still small voice of wisdom within, and it really can give us support. I'll listen to my body, listen to my soul, and then listen to my spirit. And you can even ask your spirit, like, should I do this? What do you think about this? Is this the right decision? And just listen. And it's very interesting to me. Like, there oftentimes there's a yes or a no. It's very clear. Or there's a new path that comes in, a new decision that I need to make. So sitting with all of our body, soul, and spirit before we make really important decisions is really very important. And once you practice this for a while, body, soul, spirit, you can get faster at it. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful, and this will benefit you as you move forward gently and softly and progressively, and your decisions create more light in your life and more love and more joy instead of more stress. So I'm Tonyah Dee. Thank you so much. Go in grace and go with grace.